call meeting to order. First item is the adoption of the agenda. It is resolved that the agenda for the October 20th, 2023 meeting be accepted as presented, with the deletion of the delegation by the Department of Transportation and the request for a letter of support from Ellis Farms under general business, and the addition of a retender of modified road clay capping services under unfinished business, and the closure of waste transfer station on November 11th being added under general business. Please move that. Councilor McDonald, second. Councilor Hatch. Discussion. All in favor?
Favor.
Be it resolved that the minutes of September 15th, 2023 regular meeting of council be hereby approved as circulated. To move that, Councilor Fisher, seconder. Councilor Hatch, any errors or omissions? All in favor?
In favor.
Okay, under finance, be it resolved October 12th, 2023 general accounts payable being checks number 6743 to 6804 in the amount of $213,220.28 be hereby approved. So please move that. Councilor McDonald, seconder. Councilor Fisher, discussion.
Favor.
Be it resolved that direct deposit 284 being staff payroll for the period September 4th to September 15th, 2023 in the amount of $13,467.49 be hereby approved. I'm going to move that. Councilor Hatch, seconder. Councilor Fisher, discussion. All in favor?
In favor.
Be resolved that direct deposit 285 being election payroll for the period September 4th to September 15th, 2023 in the amount of $279.15 be hereby approved. Move that. Councilor Donald, second. Councilor Fisher, discussion. All in favor?
In favor.
Be resolved to direct deposit 286 being staff payroll for the period September 18th to September 29th, 2023 in the amount of $14,307.13 be hereby approved. Move that. Councilor McDonald, seconder. Councilor Hatch, discussion. All in favor?
Favor.
Be resolved the direct deposit 288 being staff payroll for the period October 2nd to October 13th, 2023 in the amount of $14,622.30 be hereby approved. Somebody to move that. Councilor Fisher, second. Councilor McDonald, discussion. All in favor?
In favor.
Be it resolved that direct deposit 287 being council indemnities for the month of September 2023 in the amount of $4,852.25 be hereby approved. I'm going to move that. Councilor McDonald, seconder. Councilor Hatch, discussion. All in favor?
In favor.
Utility account, be it resolved that October 12th, 2023, utility accounts payable being checks number 1071 to 1083 in the amount of $11,558.24 be hereby approved. Move that. Councilor McDonald, seconder. Councilor Fisher, discussion. All in favor?
In favor.
Okay, statement of revenue and expenditures, be it resolved that the statement of revenue and expenditures report to September 30th, 2023 be received as presented. We did move that. Councilor McDonald, seconder. Councilor Hatch, discussion. All in favor?
In favor.
Bank reconciliations, be it resolved that the bank reconciliations for the month of September 2023 be approved as previously circulated. Somebody to move that. Councilor Fisher, second. Councilor Hatch, discussion. All in favor?
In favor.
Okay. We're going to do the delegation.
We have to hear the public hearing at 9:15, so maybe communications.
Yeah, okay. Okay, communication.
Okay, under the order of communications, there was information from Asset Management Saskatchewan on their NAMS Plus Fall Workshop. The Association of Manitoba Municipalities provided information dated September the 13th 2 dated September the 15th, 1 September the 18th, 1 September the 19th, 2 September the 20th, September 26th, September the 28th, October the 2nd, October the 3rd, October the 6th, October the 10th. Adele Bowles provided information on an animal control issue in the Brandon Hills Estates. Connect provided information on their environmental compliance and due diligence essentials conference. The Emergency Management Organization Workshop is being held on November the 14th. Federation of Canadian Municipalities provided a communique dated September the 18th, September the 25th, October the 2nd, and October the 10th. Little Blue Star Landscape Architecture provided an introduction to their company. Manitoba Municipal Relations provided information on the final payment of the 2023 Municipal Operating Grant. And the Office of the Drinking Water provided information on drinking water systems. With the communications, there is a requirement that we find out who wants to attend the AMN conference and who might be wanting gala tickets. So I will check with you at the end of the council meeting to make that determination.
Okay. Be it resolved that the above noted communications be received. Somebody to move that. Councillor McDonald, second Councillor Fisher. Discussion, Councillor Room.
Mr. Chairman, just direct this to our CAO, what the animal control issue, what has taken place there?
Some of it I'll speak to you in camera on. Adele had sent subsequent information to indicate that any further correspondence that she's had or dealings has been with our animal control officer. And there is an issue between her and her neighbor where there is a dog that has a doggy door and the dog will come out. If it is agitated by anything, it barks. So animal control have been out a number of times, as have the animal protection officers from the province. But there is a bit more to that that I will speak to in camera.
Okay, all in favor?
In favor.
Committee reports right away too.
We may as well.
We'll go to committee reports. Start with the South Zone, Ward 3. Councillor Fisher, your written report. Anything to add?
Nothing to add.
Councillor Jones is absent. Zone, North Zone, Ward 2. Councillor Hatch, you have a written report. Anything to add to it?
Nothing to add.
Councillor Rome, you have a report.
I just wanted to make council aware that, and maybe council is aware, but there's a fairly serious bear issue at Lake Clementi. It's been ongoing all summer. I'm not sure that it's been taken that seriously by conservation, but this particular bear is on a rotation and I believe last night got into a car there, but has attempted to get into patio doors and basement windows, and that type of thing. So I'm wondering if we can communicate the seriousness of this to conservation and ask that it be dealt with. Also, there's been some conversations rurally with regard to tax time in particular, and the operation of a satellite office at the old Nesbitt office for taxes. I also had a call this morning from a local resident of town that had a bit of a fire going on that was under control, but I guess somebody reported it and the fire department had to go out. He was concerned that he shouldn't have to do a permit because it was awkward for him computer-wise. I've since learned that from talking with the fire chief that it's as simple as a phone call to the office and the office would fill out the fire permit. So I'll communicate that to him, but I'm just wondering if there's some way that we can better advertise this out into the community so the fire department doesn't get these call outs. If we can somehow make this more of a, more evident to the public so that they know they can make a call rather than having to go online and fill out a permit. The other call I got was with regard to culverts and the fact that a lot of our culverts haven't had any attention really for years, and we've got water going over roads and stuff, not just in the spring, but in some of the larger rain events. This will be a big catch-up thing for Public Works, I know, because there just has been no attention paid over the years. But obviously it requires a backhoe to do some cleanup and do what's necessary to make these culverts function the way they're supposed to. A lot of it also relates to all of us farming closer to the road allowances, and your wing of your cultivator will push dirt towards the culverts. So maybe make those that aren't aware that they should maybe go out and clean the dirt away from the end of the culvert if they're the ones that are putting it there. But we've got culverts that are blocked and culverts that are too low. So that's something that we need to address over the next short while. The last thing I was going to mention is more of an office thing. I'm wondering if it's not possible for each council member to have a municipal map supplied by the office so that we have one that's current when we get calls.
All I did was ask Dennis and he gave it to me, so.
Yeah, no, but I'm just, that was never something that was in our package in the past, so if we could keep council members current with current maps, that would be helpful. That's all I have.
Okay, Moni's report, Ward 1, Councilor McDonald, you have written report, anything to add?
Nothing on my written report, but I just wanted to add, I'm on the chairman of the handy van committee for Municipality of Oakland and Source Glenwood, and we actually got approved for a grant, and maybe you've heard me talk about that, from the federal government to buy 2 handy vans, but they were to be electric or hybrid. So we went to tender and nobody can supply. So we went back to the federal government, who initiated the grant and said we could not, they can't supply and our vans are getting older. And we just got approval back this week that we could buy 2 gas handy vans and they'll cover 80%, and we have the money in our reserve, to pay the difference. So they've gone to tender. So it's great news for our 2 communities.
Councilor McGregor, you have a written report, anything to add to it? Well, sorry.
I just had a question for Bob. Did you say Source Glenwood were part of the Source?
No, Glenwood, so Cypress. Did I say Source Glenwood? Sorry, no, it's Glenroe, so Cypress. Sorry,
Yeah, I just wanted.
that was my mistake. I'm glad you cleared that up, Dennis. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilor McGregor, you have a written report, anything to add to it?
Nothing to add.
My report's there, nothing to add. CAO's report, anything to add, Chair?
I would like to add that appointments to committees and boards are coming up soon, which probably indicates there should be a review done of the organizational bylaw as well as the procedure bylaw. And I'm just wanting to know if council would like me to try and set up a special meeting to do that, or if you would rather try to do that in conjunction with the November council meeting. And I'll send out a note to see availabilities and preferences and go from there.
Is there anything?
Yes.
Finance report? Again? Public Works, written report, anything to add to it?
Not just that we had a check go through that was for washing the grader, and it was a hefty bill, and I'm getting it credited back because it was washed before it went there. So.
Okay. All right. Fire chief's report is there. That's good. Be it resolved that the verbal and written reports be received. So we can move that. Councilor McDonald, second Councilor Fisher. Just any further discussion? Call for vote, all in favor?
In favor.
Okay, first one after, so we're back to.
And we can do the public hearing.
Okay, be it resolved that the regular meeting of council be recessed to allow council to hold public hearings to receive representations from any person who wish to make them in respect to a variation application. So please move that. Councilor McDonald, seconder. Mr. Hatch, all in favor?
In favor.
Okay, this is a public hearing on variation application V3/23 to increase the number of sign-based business from 1 to 2 and to increase the size of one sign from a maximum of 54 square feet to 65.15 square feet for property located in southeast quarter 27/8/19 west for queries.
Okay, so the public hearing is open. I would invite anybody who has an interest to come forward at this time and make representation. I will let council know that there have been no phone calls and no inquiries related to this. And I see no one coming forward.
Okay, whereas all representatives in regard to the variation application number V3/23 to increase the number of signs for a home-based business from 1 to 2 and to increase the size of one sign from the maximum of 54 square feet to 65.15 square feet for lot 1, plan 63642, located in southeast quarter 27/8/19 west. Querying had been dealt with. Therefore, be it resolved that the public hearing be concluded and council resume its normal order of business. Someone move that. Councilor Fisher, seconder. Councilor Hatch. All in favor?
Favor.
Okay. Now we'll go to delegations.
Yes, please.
Okay, so. Mr. Zakowicz, you have the floor. Mr. Come to the table there, please.
Good morning, members of the council. As is stated on the minutes, I am here to discuss the situation on Commercial Street where I like to describe it as overflow water crossing Commercial Street onto my property, 204 Commercial. This has been an ongoing problem for quite a number of years. As a matter of fact, it was 4 years ago when I first brought it to attention of the works foreman at that time. 2 years went by with no action. A year or so ago, I appeared at council, made a presentation, and at that time, there was some very minor work done. The ends of some culverts were opened up. There was a little bit of cleaning, but the culvert itself, the main culvert, which is the 90-degree elbow culvert on the south side of Commercial Street, was not touched. Unfortunately, I had to appear at the council meeting again in July of this year. And again, and I should add that the problem is that all the water from 3rd and 4th Street is being directed to that area and crossing. Now, the culvert coming off Main Street is a 2-foot culvert. The culvert crossing from 3rd Street is a 2-foot culvert. And it's being dumped into a 2-foot culvert with a 90-degree elbow. So anytime there is rain, it doesn't have to be that substantial. You know, anything probably over an inch, it will cross the road. So it's a serious issue, and as I say, it was not an issue in the past, it's become more of an issue. And so this year, after appearing at the July meeting, again, some work was done upstream and some work was done downstream, but again, that was not touched. Nothing has happened there. I mentioned to council a year ago that the culvert is coming up. There was a few years back, there would be 3 or 4 feet of pipe exposed on the east. If you go down there this morning, the entire length of pipe that runs to the east is exposed. It's obvious to me the pipe is coming up. Now, I heard through hearsay, because nothing has been communicated back to me, that there was some levels run and the pipe is only 2.5 inches higher at the exit end. And I'm not going to dispute that, but it would appear to me the whole culvert is being raised. Why else would it be above ground? And in fact, being a 2-foot culvert, half of that culvert, approximately a foot, is above the level of the street. So anytime the culvert runs full, it's just going to naturally cross the street. Why wouldn't it? And, you know, as I mentioned before, I've lived here for 10 years. Water originally never flowed in that direction. There's been too much water directed to that one area, it cannot handle it. And, you know, again, there was some work done directing the water away from the Goody Roads yard. Well, good for them. I'm not saying that isn't a good thing, but it doesn't help the situation of water crossing onto my property. The town cannot direct water from Main Street onto private property owners. Something has to be done there. Now, I can understand there would be some reluctance by any contractor to start digging by that culvert because Westman Cable has ran their fiber cable right at the end of the culvert. Now, that should never have been allowed to happen in the first place, but it's there now, and unfortunately, it has to be dealt with. You know, does Westman Cable, in fact, have priority over the citizens of the community? Well, it almost appears because we can't lower the ditch. We're not allowed to dig because there's a cable there. Unfortunately, maybe something should have been done, but it didn't happen, so we have to deal with it now. Again, I've never seen a culvert, and I'm sure the municipality has never installed a culvert that's above grade. Like what's the purpose of it? It's not doing its purpose. We have a problem, and we require a solution to that problem. And I feel it's the responsibility of this council to deal with it. Unfortunately, prior councils did not deal with it. That water from Main Street, 4th Street, should never have been directed to the east. That's uphill. And that's what has created that issue. If it was just handling the water off of 3rd, I'm sure that it would handle it. In the past, that water from 4th Street ran down 4th toward the dam. And that's the flow of water. Water runs downhill and it runs to the river in this situation. Like from the whole town, the water is running down toward the river. So when we start directing it in directions it doesn't want to go. And now with the construction of the fourplex on the neighboring lot, in the past used to run through that lot, which is mostly vacant. And it got away. That will not happen now. So as I say, we've got to come up with a solution here. It's not a case of if it'll happen again. It has happened in the last 4 years, twice a year, every year, and it will happen again next year. We're not going to have any problem for 6 months. I guarantee you that. But that's the only guarantee we have. As soon as we get a rain of any substantial amount, if we had a rain this fall that lasted for 4 days, and I don't know, let's say we got an inch of rain, well, there was no problem because it came in such slow amounts that it was able to get away. I have some suggestions for council, and I've made these suggestions, but to no avail in the past. But I think the number one thing is that water coming off Main Street, 4th Street again, has got to be at the very least split so that it is not going over there. As I, and I hate to reiterate this, but I can't say it enough. You can't take two-foot culverts and put it into a single 2-foot and expect it to carry it. It just can't do it. In the past, that water did run north down the hill, and it could again. There is no cable on that side of 4th Street. The other suggestion, and that was mentioned by a member of council to me, that a vac truck could clean below the culvert and put it down so at least it wasn't higher than the street. Now, you would say, well, it's sitting at the level at the discharge end. Well, I'm sure what's happened that it's silted in, and that's what has brought up the level of that ditch. And I also understand that there's a hydro pole down, the hydro pole's in the center of the ditch, which is another obstacle. I'm not saying it easy. If the hydro pole and the cable wasn't there, the ditch could be lowered, and that would alleviate a lot of the issues. It's created some problems, but I mean, there is solutions if we want to find them. And thirdly, a suggestion that I made to the works foreman was that if another culvert was put on the end of the existing one and it took the water further east, it would still cross the water would cross the road, but at that point, it's going to be closer to the intersection where there is pipes and water. There's some of the improvements made this year that water would flow to the north and not be an issue for anyone else. Because I'm not saying that I would like to see water pushed in anybody else's lot. The water that crosses my lot, and also I mentioned, goes onto the floor of my shed. I can no longer store anything valuable on the floor because it'll put water on there. When it crosses my lot, it goes on to Perry Klein's lot. I can't believe that he's never complained about it. He actually dug a trench and put rocks in there, and then it carries down the hill. It runs onto Myrna Curvis's lot. It might be Scott's today, but how long does that go on? Their lot is vacant, so I don't know if there's been complaints from there or not, but still, it's not the right way to handle water. So I would really urge council to take this issue seriously. It has to be addressed. I don't like having to come to council meetings repeatedly over the same issue, and I shouldn't have to. Doing nothing is not a solution. We've got to come up with a solution and act on it. And one of my deepest concerns right now at this point, with no dirt on that culvert, that, you know, from the elbow to the east. If we get a substantial rainfall, it'll blow that culvert out because you've got to have something on a culvert to hold it down. Maybe that was the purpose of the rock that was in it. I don't know. I was told that there was a rock laying in that culvert, but it's very, very obvious to me. And I know a number of you have looked at that culvert and see how high it is. So again, I don't really have much more to add. I think all the members of the council understand where I'm coming from. If you have any questions, I'd love to try and answer them.
Don, do you think where that culvert is? And I've looked at it. It does appear by eye more than 2 inches, but I actually had a chat with Perry when I was down there that day, and he said the sight line that they'd done, that they'd shot showed 2 to 2.5 inches. Do you think if the culvert, the 90-degree was removed and a rock swale was put in there so that you could deepen that a little bit and then get it down to the level of the culvert is at or should be at, would that solve any of the problem?
Well, it'll probably have more capacity, and, you know, Bob could maybe answer that better than me, but I think anytime you're gonna run water doesn't like making 90-degree turns.
No.
So it's gotta be a restriction.
Well, you know, I'm not as aware as some of the council members here of the waterfall of Wawanesa, but it would seem to me that, as you said, coming off of below the hotel there or by the hall, if you could just go straight north of that water, it's an easy flow right to the dam.
Well, again, Dennis, you know, the railway used to run through town and there was deep ditches on each side of it. And up to that time, there wasn't really a lot of issues because those deep ditches were very deep. As a matter of fact, when we built the hall, I was in charge of filling the lot and we had to excavate it to the bottom of the railway ditch. And it was deep, so everybody thought we were putting the basement under the hall, but that wasn't the case. But, you know, with the addition of the hall and the fourplex below, you know, we've created some issues, and the problem was, and I don't know, and maybe Bob knows the answer to that, when that culvert was installed. So basically it's taking water off of Main Street at the bank. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's running it to behind the whippoorwill there and then going east. And my proposal is that at that point, possibly a Y could be put in and it could be carried to the north. And I mean, there's some costs, there'd be some ditching involved. I'm not sure what all would be involved, but another proposal that was brought forward was putting some berms in that ditch that's coming down from the south to slow the, yeah. Again, I think that's a positive thing, but the comment I heard was that, well, then it's harder to mow the ditch. Well, you know, first of all, does the ditch really have to be mowed? And maybe a little difficulty in mowing is better than having water crossing the street.
Well, there's no doubt that you've got two, like you say, two 2-foot culverts, one at the south and one coming from the west, feeding one 2-foot on a 90-degree, and there's no way that should ever work. So there has to be something.
I'll just add my take. I walked up a fair bit, and my take on it is the ditch that runs where they put the new culvert in that runs to the east before it joins up with the one from 3rd Street or by the hall. There's a 2-foot pipe through there. So, and then it runs down that ditch to the elbow you're talking about. And I think the design of that, what I see, and I've been there, they're made to kind of store water in that ditch some to slow it down. And that rock, unfortunately, was in that pipe, which I wasn't aware of, like any of us, but I think it's kind of designed for a storage, so it doesn't go real fast around that. that's what my take is on that design of that ditch there. That's, and a rock weir, I'm just scared if we did that there, it would hit with such a force, a whole bunch of water go over. That's my concern.
Councillor Head.
Mr. Chairman, so I've looked at this numerous times and I probably brought up the idea of the rock berms to slow flow of water. The idea of a vac truck to knock the 90-degree pipe down is quite inexpensive. And we don't affect the fiber optic cables. But like you guys are all saying, 2 pipes feeding into 1 ditch and the water has to be slowed down. And it doesn't take an engineer to figure that out.
Or like Don said, possibly splitting it so some of the water actually goes more directly north.
It's a more difficult thing, but the other problem you're gonna have is if you start flowing that water down in the big ditch coming from the church, between the church and the hall, it's gonna back up on Gullet's land more.
We're not
That's a
talking,
shallower ditch.
we're not talking about building it down.
No, I mean, if you slow the water down in the big ditch.
Yeah.
This little ditch is not gonna take it, it's gonna be overflowing. And that's gonna probably flood out 2 residences. On heavy rains.
Yeah, I'm just talking 12-inch high, little structures just to slow the flow of the runoff.
Yeah, and I think
Mr. Chairman, and I'm, again, since we talked a couple times, I've back and looked, and I'm just wondering if we extend that 90-degree elbow. I was there when it was measured. I know the height of the culvert. If we lowered that outlet end that 2 inches or whatever, and extended that pipe to the hydro pole, it would definitely take that water farther east, like Don was saying.
I think it's something we need more expertise on it rather than just say, let's do this, let's do that. I think it's a dangerous kind of situation. And that's what we have to look at as a council, is to get something more in the expertise side.
Can I say something, Dave? Back in July, there was a resolution that they look at getting an engineer. Well, there's your expertise. What came of it? Nothing.
Yeah, I think there was some plan made to clean some culverts out, put a new culvert in, clean the ditches out, deepen the ditch on that, on the south side. And that was all done. Of course,
The ditch wasn't deep.
Well, they scraped it to get
I would agree. It was a scrape.
too wide, and I shouldn't maybe say deepen it, but it increased the size of it. So I mean, that's where, there's only so much money, and that was out of the gas tax situation. There's not a taxation. Councilor Rowe.
Mr. Chairman, I think, Don, what happened there was that, the thing about the engineer became all encompassing. A drainage plan for the whole village, and the bill was sizable. If we were just to zero in on that situation, it would be probably, somewhat less than what we were talking about. But I think that's where that went, was it just was too much money. We'll look at these alternatives. Now, I do know, like Harry Klein said to me as well, there was a rock in there that probably cut it down by 1/3 what the flow was out of that culvert. Still not ideal. 90-degree turn, same size culvert being fed by 2 others. But yeah, I think if we were to just zero in on that one situation, as far as, okay, how do we correct this? The engineering cost would be significantly less than what we were told.
And you have to remember that the infrastructure is not meant for catastrophic weather events. Never has been, never will be in any community, in any municipality, in any city. It's just not done that way. So you can't make it, so it's going to take everything, because you just don't know what's coming out of the sky these days. And they want to refer to climate change and everything else going on. They're saying storms are going to get more stronger and more rains, more snow, etc. So
Well, we're talking about issues here with 2 inches of rain. That's not
We're talking
catastrophic.
one, I've seen it overflow with 1 inch of rain. I don't call that catastrophic. If it was a 4-inch rain, like I believe Souris, and I apologize for interjecting, but I believe Souris had a 4-inch rain in a quick, this summer, wasn't it, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
June.
that I can accept, But we're not talking that. We're talking if it was a hard rainfall of an inch, it just can't handle it. The water gets there quick, boom, it's over the road.
Yeah.
And there is the difference. And I just want to add one last thing, and that is as far as the cleaning that was done in the ditch, barely a scrape. And anybody driving by can see the ditch wasn't lowered. You know, there was a little scrape, but by the ends of the culverts, and basically that was it. So it isn't going to make any difference. Anyway,
Chelsea, Chelsea, you want to say something?
Yes, we planned for a certain amount of money for that project, starting at behind the hall. We've basically used all the money. I'm not saying that's not a problem, because it is, but maybe it's something that we need to plan for an additional extension or backtrack or whatever.
Yeah, it'll have to be coming into this next year's budget. That's what we're gonna, we gotta have, put it in the budget and then deal with it.
Mr. Chairman, sorry.
As for the 90, we just put another 90 in at the top too. So I don't think the 90 is the problem. I think that maybe an extension or maybe another alternative is fine, but it's something that we have to budget for.
well, Chelsea, any, you know, no 90-degree elbow is going to carry what a straight pipe would. That's just the fact of life. You know, it's restricted at the 90. That's all I'm saying.
Well, let's slow down.
Okay, we'll take it under advisement. Get
Okay, and can I make one comment, and this is directed to Joni? When I hated, like I appeared at the July meeting, and, you know, there was things done, and as a person who appeared as a delegation, I never received anything formal with regard to what happened. I mean, I hear tidbits on the street, it's hearsay. Joe said this, Mike said no, it was that. I think there should be some communication back as to what the intent is, if anything comes from it. Is that possible?
I'm going to say to some degree, no. You're made aware of what council's formal decision is, and then the administration acts within it. I know you and I have had several conversations over the course of the summer. You've also had several conversations with Chelsea over the course of the summer, so that she made you aware of what it was that she was attempting to do. If council is wanting me to start preparing reports on the administration's work, I can certainly undertake that. But under normal circumstances, no, I don't necessarily report back. If the decision has been for the administration to carry out the work, then the administration does do that. If, like I say, if council would like me to do more formal reporting of what it is specifically that council or that the administration is doing, the request for me to do that is,
that's come from council.
yeah, then I can certainly do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and my intent there is not to give you more work, but I think you can all understand if you're hearing it on the street. I mean, I don't live in Wawanesa. I'm not going to get in the coffee shop or anything else, but it's not necessarily exactly what's happening. And so, but I mean, I will continue communication with you and Chelsea.
You're always able to come to the office and speak. to
Yeah, and that's what I've done. Okay, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Okay, be it resolved.
Mr. Chairman, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just wanted to provide one bit of information there. The engineering tender that went out was not for the entire village. It was for the specific corridor that we are speaking about. So I just thought that was important clarification that we did not tender the entire drainage plan. It was specific to this area. It was about a two block width spanning from the north end of town to the south end to focus on the problem area.
And just to maybe go farther with that, Councillor McGregor, is the fact that if we do the engineer, by the time we get the engineer study, it would have been later in the, getting into the fall and possibly into winter before we could start doing any work. So we thought if we did this, it might alleviate springtime and everything else, but in any case, we'll go from there.
Okay.
Thank you. Be it resolved that the presentation by Don Zachanow related to water crossing Commercial Street by 204 Commercial Street be received. Somebody please move that. Councilor Rowan, seconder, Councilor McDonald. All in favor?
Favor.
Okay. We're unfinished business.
We are.
Go to unfinished business. Be it resolved that the building of approaches policy number trans 008 be revised as circulated related to approaches in residential and commercial areas. Can you please move that? Councilor Hatch, seconder. Councilor McDonald, discussion? Can you just,
If I could, there was a couple of areas on the policy when I circulated it that I still had highlighted. I'm just wanting to make sure that council didn't want any changes done to that. I think Chelsea and I have tried to address the kind of the simple fixes, but for instance, it indicated a 100 meters
Yeah.
sight line that I had highlighted, and there was one other area. Just wanting to make sure the council didn't want any changes on that before we adopted or circulated.
Yeah. Two
Yeah.
highlighted.
yeah. Minimum site distance from where the approach ties into municipal road shall be a minimum of 100 meters in either direction.
So that's as the policy currently states, and we didn't change that.
Yeah, that's not gonna be doable in certain areas in the village, right, or in any settlement area, so I think we're gonna have to put some clarification in there.
And as we were looking, and I mean, we were kind of looking out in front of the building here, for instance, 100 meters in either direction, north and south, we'd be able to see. You definitely don't have that same visibility east and west if you're dealing with settlement blocks.
Right.
I didn't know exactly what it is that council would like us to try and change that to. Or if you want another clause put in that would deal with settlement areas where it would be, I don't know, 50 meters in either direction. We could certainly do that if that would be council's desire.
50 feet. Should be okay, but most lots.
Most lots are 50,
50,
well,
50 to
25 or
60.
50. So you would want to be able to see at least a lot on either side of you before you're starting
50,
to
50,
back
so
out
150 is, so that's 50 meters.
50 meters.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing then is insert a new clause that would be specific to settlement areas at 50 meters.
50 meters gives you basically 3 lot widths, right?
Yeah, one on each side. One on
A
each side.
little.
I think that's still too far, guys. Like if you think about, Eldon Obax, for instance, I don't think that, you would have 50 meters because that corner is there. So I think we need to be careful with this. I think it's it's something that makes sense in a rural area, but I think I'm tempted to just take that rule out for settlement areas and leave it at the discretion of council.
Discretion of council, discretion of public works manager.
Yeah.
The rest of it, through public works manager.
Yeah, public works, I'm fine with that.
Okay, so if I just add an exception in there that doesn't apply to settlement areas, and that'll be determined by the public works manager.
I mean, as long as it's safe to pull out, right?
Right. And if there's a belief that installing an approach isn't going to be safe, then there's going to have to be something else brought to council that would have to determine the safety issue.
Yeah.
And the other area that was highlighted was in fact that it is the public works manager who's making the determination. That was council's decision with the original policy. Is that still in play? Rather than making everything come to council to be decided on a monthly basis.
I think it can be left to the public works, but council?
Yeah, I think so. Public Works can look after that.
I'm good with that.
And I will let council know that I am working with the solicitor on a bit of a drainage bylaw that might also play into a bit of the approaches. So we'll see what that comes forward with. Okay,
Mover and seconder, me?
we have a mover and a seconder.
All in favor?
In favor.
Okay, be it resolved that this regular meeting now adjourns to an in-camera meeting to discuss a financial matter as per subsection 152(3)(b)(3) of the Municipal Act. And all matters discussed in camera are confidential until discussed in an open meeting as per section 83(1)(d) of the Municipal Act. So please move that. Councilor Dong, seconder. Mr. Hatch, all in favor?
Favor.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, be it resolved that this in-camera meeting is now resumed back to a regular meeting. Can you please move that? Dong, second, Councilor Fisher, all in favor?
In favor.
Okay, under general business, variation application B323.
Do we want to do
Do
this
that one
one
first?
just because they're business?
Oh, okay. Be it resolved that payment is made to TC Bailiff for the outstanding pest control product invoice. Can you please move that? Councilor Dong, seconder. Councilor Rome. All in favor?
In favor.
Make sure we get it. Yep. Okay. No. I'll get the next one. Be it resolved that the credit balance on account being the difference between the quote of 3 liters per foot being applied and the actual 2.153 liters per foot being applied, be refunded to all affected property owners less the $25 administration fee set out in the fees and charges bylaw. Can you please move that? Councilor McDonald, second Councilor Hatch. Discussion? All in favor?
Favor.
Sorry, I will just,
I'm sorry. Did you have-
just on the $25 administration fee. Was there an initial $25? Is this a second one or did we probably get 2 fees in there or just one?
No, it wasn't charged initially, but
Was-
it should have been.
Yeah.
So this is taking that into consideration.
I just didn't want to see it doubled up.
Okay, now we're to. Okay, whereas a clay capping services tender was issued based on 3 miles of road with the option of a 4th mile, and whereas council determined due to the budget that only 1 mile road would be completed in 2023, and whereas company awarded the bid has withdrawn due to the reduced mileage, therefore be it resolved that a new tender be issued in the spring of 2024 for clay capping services. Wait, please move that. Councilor McDonald, seconder. Dr. Hatch, discussion? All in favor?
Favor.
That's the letter. Be resolved that a letter of clarification be sent to all ratepayers related to the provision of funds for legal costs related to harassment. Can you please move that? Fisher, second. Councilor McDonald, discussion? All in favor?
In favor.
Opposed? Okay, now we're in variation.
Yes.
Okay. Be it resolved, the variation application V3/23 to increase the number of signs for a home-based business from 1 to 2 and to increase the size of 1 sign from a maximum of 54 square feet to 65.15 square feet for lot 1, plan 63642, located in southeast quarter 27819W. Querying to be approved without conditions. Please move that. Councilor Fisher, seconder. McDonald? Any further discussion?
If I could, I would just note that they have the required permits from highways to do that.
All in favor?
In favor.
Okay. Whereas information has been received from Next Gen Drainage Solutions on behalf of Spring Valley with respect to proposed tile drainage project located on West 9817 WPM. And whereas a request has been made to allow the tile drainage system outlet to flow into the undeveloped municipal road allowance on Road 44 North. And whereas the concerns have been expressed by the Public Works Manager related to the adverse effect to 5 Mile Creek and the ability for the bridge downstream to handle increased water volumes of water. And whereas a 2010 license to construct water control works includes the requirement that water is not to be diverted into new ditch until it is permanently vegetated and stabilized, which has not been done. Therefore, be it resolved that the request for tile drainage permission and consent from Next Gen Drainage Solutions on behalf of Spring Valley to allow the tile drainage system outlet to flow into the undeveloped municipal road allowance, Road 44 North, be denied. Can we please move that? Mr. Hatch, seconder. Councilor Fisher, discussion?
We should bring Chelsea up and let her describe some of what goes on here.
Do you want to come to the schedule?
So basically, you guys see the picture that I handed out. The license from 2010 said that they were to seed this. I guess it was seeded, but they've dug it out probably 10 times. So as you can see, it's completely bare in these pictures.
There's no vegetation there at all.
No, no,
It's just dug out again this year.
exactly. So it's
So
just.
they're not
non-condition.
complying with that permit, is what you're saying.
No, they're not. And there was a water officer out here yesterday. And we've been talking back and forth for quite, well, 2 different officers actually. And basically it's just every project that they're doing, it's not up to par with license, so.
No, I don't know. They can apply for appeals through the provincial government.
I think we make Next Gen aware that the tile drainage has been denied.
Right.
Next Gen will then be aware of whether or not they've got the opportunity of appealing it to the province, or whether the province will provide any additional information on the licenses they've already issued and compliance on them. I do believe that application has been made through their portal, giving some indication of the concerns that we are expressing. The unfortunate part, as we are hearing it, is that non-compliance with a provincial license nets a fine of, I believe it's $500.
Right.
So it's not a lot. If somebody is determined not to follow the license, the fine isn't necessarily enough to make them change their mind. But that is what is in existence with the province right at the moment. It is provincial jurisdiction on that portion of it. So municipally, it's out of council's hands on that. Council has the opportunity and is always requested for letters of support when it comes to doing tile drainage. I believe this is the first time that we have ever suggested that the request be denied. But I think based on the 2010 license that was issued and the non-compliance, council has grounds to do that. And then it would be a case of seeing where the province would ultimately go with it.
And just so we're clear, this is our road allowance where this ditch is.
Yeah.
So,
Has this road allowance ever been officially declared closed?
No.
No.
Councilor,
Mr. Chairman, being that I have property that is a recipient of tile drainage, I have asked in the past of our water services people what the rules are now, because they seem to have evolved over the last few years. It used to be that if you were immediately downstream from the tile drainage, you would have contact as to whether you objected or whether, what your thoughts were on it. Doesn't happen anymore, hasn't happened in the last probably 6 or 7 years. They've basically given the tile drainage companies kind of a blanket approach to it. If they put it in and if they fill in all the blanks, they approve it. And I think we need to kind of get back into the process. I think we need to say something or make an official presentation to government that as a municipality, we need to have some control over tile drainage or some input so that our residents don't, you're talking about 5 Mile Creek, you're talking about the bridge downstream. In my opinion, it's gotten a little bit out of hand because there's just no input whatsoever. It's just, hey, these guys have applied and it looks like the application's good, and Water Services has said that we don't get involved anymore. They do it through the portal, and that's how it is. I think we need to try to take back some control of the process.
We don't have any control of private property though.
No, but
So that.
But when it hits private property, and I'll just look at mine, when it hits private property, it hits the creek that goes through my place,
Oh.
which affects the flow and where it's going.
And it's up to the.
And I have
definition.
culvert issues, that, again, there's lots of culvert issues throughout the municipality. I'm just saying that, this is a typical example of the tiling company, Next Gen or whoever's doing it, and possibly others saying, we're just gonna do this because it's a $500 fine. It's minuscule.
It's the same price as the license.
The Southwest Caucus has been dealing with this for the last year and a half with the provincial government, trying to get into some better regulations and trying to get the fines increased, because we also know, and this is coming from the whole Southwest corner, and we've got water issues that are coming from Saskatchewan as far as the sewer goes, and so on and so forth. And they're diverting water out of Saskatchewan left and right with no impunity, basically. Southwest Caucus, the Lynn area is really on this, and we just got together as a group, the Southwest, to go with the government officials and try to get this solved. It's not easy. And now we got to change the government, so we're back to square one. So we'll keep on going with the Southwest Caucus. I think we have more voice there because there's so many more municipalities involved.
Yeah.
And we'll try to get to it. But yeah, understand. It's a concern, major concern.
Mr. Chairman, if we have a tile drainage policy, does that come into effect anything with this, or is it, or not?
There is no tile drainage policy. At the time that council was considering one, it was the province that had jurisdiction, and the tile drainage policy that was being circulated basically just reiterated what was already in provincial regulation. So council determined at the time not to put its own policy in place because it would have to be every time the province amended its regulations.
Okay, thank you. I just had a couple of questions I'll bring up sometime.
Yeah, going to that, like it's going into 5 Mile Creek. They have to apply for the provincial government regulations and permits before they even come to us. So they've got that through the provincial government already.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. My biggest concern with it is that they approve the licenses and then the flow's too big for the culverts, bridges, whatever, and then it's our cost to fix it. So we're just.
Yeah. So we'll just keep beating on it, because I think it requires constant on our part to go after this and make sure it is done properly. That's wrong.
And speaking to that, Chelsea, I mean, that spring is exactly the time when we have runoff from everywhere, and that's when the tile drainage kicks in. And if anybody drives around the municipality and sees those pipes, they're full bore on a wet spring.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have looked at tile drainage for 10 years because I am interested in it. I think it is progress for the agricultural community. Tile drainage doesn't even start until overland flooding has gone, because the ground is still froze. And it brings in a minuscule amount of water into water courses that are already there. It is not having anything to do with flooding that is taking our culverts out. That is debris, that's overland flooding, overland drainage, but it has nothing to do with tile drainage.
Yeah, and I think that's, again, that's why the provincial governments have that permit, et cetera, to do, and ours is just to make sure that, like, if you can conform to what your permit says, you know, we can work with them on that and make sure the water is going in the right place.
Yeah,
Because when they don't abide by the permit, yeah, they stop fine. We got an opportunity here now to do something about it.
Mr. Chairman, basically, the tile application to drain into this overdug swale here is the problem, the overdug swale with no vegetation.
Mhm.
So if that gets their attention, maybe that's what we have to do.
Yeah, but if it's only a fine, that's where we come with Southwest Caucus. $500 fine, they laugh at that. They'll say, here's $500 and away we go.
What is the depth of this ditch here?
8, 10 feet.
Yeah, 8 to 10 feet.
It's a pretty massive dig.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is releasing water onto whether it's a closed or open.
Yeah.
Road allowance, it's not something that we should be entertaining.
There's
Well,
also an access on that to a neighboring farmer's field. And he's concerned that he won't be able to get to it in the spring.
And we've seen lots of that, just speaking to what Councillor Fisher said. We've seen lots of that in the early stages of tile drainage where neighbors aren't able to get to fields, so there's had to be new approaches put in to get them into corners because now these ravines are so wet when they're trying to get into them. So it has provided a lot of inconvenience, albeit it's progress, and I get that. But at the same time, it has caused some problems for farmers along the way. One of them is Clay Corey. He can't access the other side of his farm through that ravine that's now tile drained. So there's issues that go along with the progress.
Okay, I'll call for the question. All in favor? Denying it?
In favor.
Thank you, Chuck. Okay, so we had the request by LSC withdrawn. You have the agreement. You want to enlighten us on that?
I would. So later on the agenda, there had been a notice of motion with respect to an approval that council had granted for an additional pathway for RF now. The approval was given for it at 1 meter from the property line, which is what Public Works had been requesting in order to keep as much of the municipal right of way open in the event that we needed to do culvert installations or whatever. At the time that this was approved, RF now didn't realize that there is a natural gas pipeline that runs there. The 1 meter is not going to work. What RF now has done is they have provided us with a copy of a service agreement that they have with other municipalities, keeping in mind that this municipality was kind of their pilot project. So as they have worked with other municipalities, they have put a service agreement in place, very similar to what we have in place with Enbridge, where there's an existing contract. They still come to us whenever there are additions or whatever, but approvals are given in accordance with the service agreement. There is always the opportunity, they still have to, or now would still have to come to the municipality for their pipe addition or their path additions. So there is always still the opportunity that Public Works would go out and take a look at it. And if there was an area of concern where it wouldn't meet with the service agreement that they have provided, that we could make approvals, but subject to different stipulations. I also checked with municipal relations, given the fact that council had considered this once at the 1 meter offset to determine if an actual reconsideration was going to be required. And what I was told was, no, it wouldn't. Council's approval is still there. The changes to the offset amount. So if council wanted to approve entering into a service agreement that would have standard clauses in it, I've got a resolution drafted And the resolution would include the fact that on the back of their service agreement, they have included as Schedule A, the addition that had been approved. So we would want to make note of the fact that it was being amended to change the offset from 1 meter to 3 meters with the deviation of plus or minus a meter. And Chelsea and I did take a drive out and take a look at this, and in this particular area, that should not cause an issue.
Yeah, it's pretty wide open there.
Okay, so the resolution would be it resolved that an agreement to be entered into between the Municipality of Oakland-Wawanesa and RF Now for the installation of fiber optic cable for path additions as circulated. And further, as outlined in Schedule A of the agreement, the council motion number 121, February 21st, 2023, be amended to change the offset requirements from 1 meter to 3 meters with a deviation of plus minus 1 meter to avoid a natural gas pipeline in the municipality right away. Moved by Councillor Fisher, second. Councillor McDonald. Further discussion? Councillor Rome.
Mr. Chairman, do we, and this question is CEO, do we have the opportunity to write into that if there is road construction or something that's going to cause repairs to be made to the RF Now cable, that's at their expense and not ours?
That is included in the agreement as written.
Okay.
Everybody received that paperwork? Okay. Any further? I'll call the question. All in favor?
In favor.
Okay. You want to give us your cool notes on this one?
I would. So again, as council is aware, there had been a tender issued for engineering services. And council's decision was that they weren't going to proceed with the tender. Subsequent to that, the communication has been received from Burns Mandel Consulting Engineering Limited. They've provided some information on how they go about doing small kind of ad hoc jobs as being the engineer of service. And they do that with a few different municipalities. It isn't something that this council has ever contemplated before. The material from Burnell, it sounds as if it could be a means of enhancing engineering requirements or making sure that council is making decisions based on professional expertise. The only concern I have would be taking this particular one without having tendered for just ad hoc engineering services, because there may very well be other firms that would be interested in doing something similar. So if council was interested in doing this, I would like it to be based on allowing me the opportunity to check and see about sole sourcing this versus having to do an out-and-out tender for small engineering services.
Okay, let's we'll get this. Be it resolved that the engineering service agreement provided by Burns Mandel Consulting Engineers Limited be received, and further that the administration be directed to investigate the use of such an agreement as a sole source provider. Can you please move that? Councilor McDonald, seconder. Councilor Hatch, discussion. You wish?
Mr. Chairman, I just had a question on it. So would it be fee for service? If you used them, they would charge you as you used them? There's not a per capita cost or anything?
Not according to the documentation that they have provided. Their documentation, of course, doesn't give an idea as to specifically what the rates would be, nor what I would expect them to at this point. But if it was something where council did have an interest in doing this, it might be interesting to see what other engineering firms might offer for a similar service. And when it's being done on an ad hoc basis, are you still being given some sort of priority when something comes up? You don't necessarily want to be the bottom of the barrel because they're busy with 10 big projects, and then they are your engineer of choice and you don't have the opportunity to go elsewhere. So I think those would be questions that council might want to ask.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, does the RM still have a policy of anything over $15,000 being tendered.
There are very specific grounds in sole source.
Right.
In this instance, it's hard to determine what the value is going to be if we haven't up to this point made use of engineers for various things. It's hard to determine if it would fall in that 15,000. My belief is in any 1 year, or if you were doing this as a 3-year, that you would probably exceed 15,000, which is why I don't think it could be sole sourced.
Well, and again, I mean, if we take the example of what we looked at here in town, a very small engineering job there was significant.
Yes.
So I would personally be against the sole source because I think it's the tender process for the limited amount that we use engineers would be a lot more cost effective for taxpayers.
But it wouldn't preclude you from going out for tenders, anything over 15,000. This would just be for one-off sort of situations.
What I am suggesting is that I'm not sure council should consider one service agreement when we have never asked other engineers if they have an interest in providing a similar service.
But the similar service, again, the different ones would still be under 15,000. They'd have to do that in order to get into.
Well, I think what would happen is if you went to tender, assuming that most jobs are going to be more than 15,000, you signed on an engineer of choice based on what they give you as to what they expect their fees and services would be. Then regardless of whether or not the job itself comes up at more than 15,000, council has done its due diligence by tendering for the service in the first place.
So and that's what this is all about.
That is
Do
what
some
this is.
further work.
Yeah, but my fear is I don't believe council should consider sole sourcing just because an agreement was provided to council.
Right. Further? All in favor?
In favor.
Opposed? Okay, be it resolved that the cost of the project to rebuild Road 113 West, the Carroll Road, in the amount of $19,765 be expended from the gas tax reserve. Please move that. Councilor Fisher, second to Councilor Hatch. Discussion? Councilor Morell?
Is this the job that we previously done this year, or is it one that we plan to do?
Different road's been done.
Okay,
This isn't a different road.
This is the one second curve.
It's already been done.
So if I could, what is being requested is that the dollar amount was there, it was included in the budget. What is being asked for is the opportunity to expend it from gas tax. So it's the funding source that changes. And in order to do it from gas tax, there needs to be a resolution to do that.
I thought, thank you. That's what
All in favor?
In favor.
Okay, whereas waste transfer stations are normally open on Saturday, and whereas Remembrance Day falls on Saturday, November 11th, 2023, therefore be it resolved, waste transfer station be closed on Saturday, November 11th, 2023, and open on Friday, November 10th, 2023, from 2:30 to 6:30. Will you please move that? Councilor Hatch, seconder. Councilor Fisher, discussion. Councilor Rome?
Mr. Chairman, with us having reduced hours on the Friday, are our operators still paid the same as if they were working Saturday?
They get paid on a different scale. It's a percentage for holidays. And they were given the option and they did not want to work it. And as we had Truth and Reconciliation Day off. And this is Remembrance Day, so I think that's only fair as well.
Well, no, and I don't disagree with that. All I'm asking is, normally they would work a full day, right, on Saturday, so they would, they'd be there from 9 till 6.
Right.
They're working reduced hours because it's Friday.
Right.
Do they still get a full day's pay?
No.
I believe they should.
They have the option to work on the 11th, right?
Pardon?
Did they have the option to work? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So why don't we allow them to work the full day then and get
On
a full day's
Remembrance
pay?
Day?
No, on the Friday and give them the full day's pay. 'Cause they work,
Not a Saturday though.
It's
that's
just
the
not a
thing, like,
Saturday.
when it's open on a Saturday, people are there at 9 AM. On a Friday, they're not.
No,
You're working.
but I just don't feel that we should be, for the little they get paid to start with, that we should be reducing their pay just because the holiday falls on that.
Some,
And that would be more, a council decision, but I just feel that they put in the time and they should, just because this happens, they shouldn't lose money on it.
maybe they want the day off instead of the pay. Right?
Can I
Okay.
explain a little bit? So they get paid the 4 hours for the Friday instead of the Saturday, and then they get 5% of the previous 4 weeks. So it's not a whole lot of difference. I can get you exact differences after the meeting.
Well, of course, as I say, my point is without knowing actual numbers, I would not like to see them lose money because the holiday's on Saturday.
It's their choice.
I asked them if they wanted to work the holiday, that would have been double time and a half.
It would have more
They
money.
chose not to have it.
Yeah, so it's
So-
their choice.
I'm not trying to
Oh,
in any way
Chelsea?
from anybody.
Chelsea, I'm not blaming it on you, Chelsea. I'm just saying that this is.
Point of order here. Please. Thank you.
Could I add, I believe this similar discussion happened with Truth and Reconciliation Day when it was being decided and council was asked about having waste transfer station open for the full day on the Friday. And with the explanation that along with the 4 hours that they get paid for actually working it, along with what they are going to receive as the portion of holiday pay that is stipulated in the Remembrance Day Act and the Labor Standards Act, that the decision of 4 hours was what council agreed upon, noting that they wouldn't lose pay and noting that the staff themselves were interested in having a weekend off. I think that is why the recommendation has come forward in the same manner, is because it was worded the same way with respect to the last stat holiday that fell on a Saturday.
Okay. All in favor?
In favor.
Opposed? Okay, so we have the notice of motion.
Yes, so I will just note the fact that there will be notices of motion for reconsideration coming up at the November meeting. And so part of it is with respect to culvert installation at the Whippoorwill condo development. Part of it will be with respect to making application under the Low Carbon Economy Fund for a grant. The third one that was noted can now be withdrawn because we were told by municipal relations it wasn't required, and we have the service agreement now that we can enter into. And the final notice of motion that will come forward for debate will be the amount of the debenture for water plant and lines. And that will be at the November meeting.
Thank you. Okay, be it resolved, this meeting is now adjourned to meet again on Friday, November 17th, 2023 at 9 AM at the municipal office in Wawanesa. Please move that. Councilor Pat, seconder. Councilor Donald, all in favor?
In favor.
Thank you, Councilor McGregor, for joining us.